We're nearing the end, people. We only have 3 episodes left before the show's over, and by God, Jack finally gets his sword back. They finally have to. Jack and Ashi have to overcome a series of intense trials, both physical and spiritually, in order to recover Jack's mystical sword from the endless abyss. Now, this episode begins with a flashback scene where Jack explains to Ashi how he lost his sword. After walking to the top of a mountain accompanied by 3 small rams, he jumped into the mountain's time portal, and I must add, the rams were just adorable. He jumped into the mountain's time portal, and it looked like he was finally going to get home, but since we know this is a flashback, we know that's not the case. Aku comes in and pulls him out of it, who proceeded to destroy the time portal with his eye beams when Jack attempted to use it again, taunting him with the knowledge that it was the last time portal in existence. And Jack becomes very frustrated and angry, and there's speculation that Mad Jack took over this part, where Mad Jack, controlled Jack because, well, Jack was pissed off, understandably so, knowing that his one hope to destroy Aku's gone, in terms of going back to the past. And then Angry Jack proceeds to lash out on Aku, who simply mutated the 3 rams into monstrous forms to play with the samurai before escaping. Jack fought and killed the corrupted rams, only to lose his sword in the process, perched precautiously over the pit where the portal once stood. When the rams reverted back to their normal state, Jack realized he had spilled innocent blood and tried to fetch his sword, but lost it due to a collapsing pillar from the struggle. Now, okay, I like the callbacks to the old Samurai Jack flashback scene, but I would have loved it more if they didn't do blood. I get why they had to do it, but it felt like if they really wanted to do a homage to the old show, to the old style of the show themes, then they could not put blood in. But they did, to show that Jack's undergoing this angered state. And Jack, oh boy, I thought it was a little over the top when Jack was screaming out frustration. I thought it was a little over the top. I can't help it. It was just kind of hilarious of how everything was going, and Aku, just being Aku, decides to say, "Oh, don't," basically telling him to take a chill pill because too much stress will get you a heart attack. And then he realizes, oh wait, never mind. Keep doing what you're doing mentality. And that was hilarious because Aku's just so fun. And I'm starting to get used to the new voice actor. It sort of sounds like Mako. So we return back to the present where Jack and Ashi arrive at the mountain on the back of a giant bird, using it to explore the depths of the pit. When they can't find the sword, Jack comes to the realization that the sword left him instead of vice versa. Now, I was also wondering in the flashback, if Aku stayed for a little while longer and he realized Jack lost the sword, wouldn't that just make sense? But instead, Aku knows not to take on Jack with the sword. And yeah, Aku, after this battle, he doesn't show himself for 50 years because he assumes, oh, the samurai's just going to die by time. But sadly, Aku's powers was his own undoing. So, back in the present, like I said, they can't find the sword, and Jack comes to the realization the sword left him instead of vice versa. Back outside, he decides to look for it spiritually by meditating. Ashi wants to come along, but Jack refuses, leaving her in charge of protecting him. As Jack meditates, Ashi spots an army in the distance, marching towards the mountain. And I gotta be honest, I get the feeling like this was playing homage to, to Lord of the Rings to an extent, because, well, it just kind of looks like them. The army that I'm trying to remember his name, Sauron used, but, yeah. So, when Ashi confronts them, but before I talk about that, Jack searches the spiritual plane for the sword, and the visuals were actually pretty good. But every time when I looked at it and the song that was playing in the background, I was like, this looks like Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage scenes where you're at these levels where you just a hub area where you just have to explore around looking for the portals to go to the levels. That's what it just looked like that to me. Like it sounded like, oh wait, the soundtrack makes it sound like Spyro. Yeah, and eventually reaching a house in the middle of a vast body of water, the monk outside asks Jack if he is lost. When Jack says yes, the monk invites him inside to make tea. While Jack prepares tea for the monk, an army arrives at the mountain to kill him. Ashi confronts the large force to their amusement, but she manages to, I'm not kidding, single-handedly slaughter all of them. And then soon spots, and like during this battle, Jack's making tea. So the tone shifts from being this dark, action-oriented scene to calm and trying to create tea moments. And I was like, okay, okay. At least it's not as discombobulated as that episode where Ashi and Jack bond inside the monster's stomach episode. Yeah, I still say that was kind of weak with the tone being all off. And then we get back to Ashi after she had just single-handedly defeated an entire army by herself. And I was thinking, like, that moment, the soldier knew after he had said they were going to kill the samurai. He knew. He fucked up. Yeah. Soon, however, Ashi spots another hostile near the top of the mountain and calls for the large bird to help her get back to higher ground. The assassin fires an arrow at Jack, but Ashi catches it just in time. Using a stone slab to block even more shots in the process, the attacker reveals herself as the High Priestess. Much to Ashi's shock, she berates her last daughter for her failure and lack of focus, but offers her one last chance to kill Jack. Ashi refused to explain to Jack that Jack showed her the truth about Aku. Using one of the ram's horns as a makeshift dagger, Ashi protects Jack while holding her own against her mother. The High Priestess scolds Ashi for betraying her family, sparing Jack, despite the fact he killed her sisters. Ashi asserts that she and her sister's fates were already chosen, being raised as nothing more than living weapons. And yeah, it's revealed that. And okay, the High Priestess, after subduing Ashi in piles of rocks from rubble, the High Priestess tries to kill Jack one more time. Ashi recovers from the rubble she had been buried under and throws one of her mother's arrows back at her, hitting her in the back and sending her falling to her supposed death. Ashi then collapses, exhausted from the fight. Yeah, I don't believe the High Priestess is dead for two reasons. One, she was defeated rather easily. Two, this is the same woman that gave birth to 7 children at once and managed to get up like it was nothing. So, yeah, so she collapses, and the High Priestess is probably still alive. She might show up in the final episode if she makes it. And this also confirms that all 6 of the sisters are pretty much dead, including the one that I thought also survived because one just fell and not get their neck snapped in the third episode. So, yeah. Back in the spiritual realm, the monk remarks that Jack's tea is terrible as it's missing a key ingredient, balance. As a consequence, his path to the sword remains hidden. Confused by the revelation, Jack begs the monk to show him the real path to the sword, but the monk simply tells him that it's not in his power to do so. And then Jack hallucinations appear and screams out, "That's fortune cookie nonsense! He knows where it is, he just won't tell you." He tries to ask him one more time, and the monk says, "That is something for you to earn." And Mad Jack, as it's revealed that it's really the return of Mad Jack back from season 1 or 2, decides to go ahead and almost strike the monk down, but instead Jack confirms the opposite, that his own frustration has kept him from fighting the sword. Seeing the truth, Jack dispels his own hallucination once and for all, and okay, I'm trying to wonder, I was expecting a spiritual battle not to end so quickly, but moving back on, his balance restored, Jack soon finds himself facing the supreme deities, Odin, Ra, and Vishnu. Like his father before him, all three gods deem him worthy, restore his original appearance during the back in the old back in the old four seasons, and returns his signature weapon, now more powerful than ever before after being infused with purity and strength of his own spirit. Once back on the physical plane, somehow still now wearing his outfit again, Jack finds Ashi and wakes her up. She compliments his new appearance and getting the sword back while he remarks on her recent battle, where one of the soldiers are apparently still alive and horribly in pain. With his sword back on his side and confidence restored, Jack informs Ashi that it's now time to confront Aku once and for all. This was a pretty good episode, and I didn't complain much about the tone being shifting from calm and nurture to chaotic and destructive, because I get what they were trying to do. And yeah, this also had the most on-screen confirmed kills. Like, there's several hundred, maybe even 1,000 people dead. The High Priestess is supposedly killed. And I still would love to know where this cult of Aku this Daughters of Aku cult come from. And yeah, I was always curious as to know what happened on that. And for the first time, Jack uses Ashi's name out loud in the first episode. And I'm always wondering, wait, how does he know her name? Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, also that scene where the Lizard Leader Army said, we're going to rip you apart into little pieces and then take those pieces and rip them apart into even more pieces, is very similar to how Gordo says, I'm going to tear you into little shreds and then I'm going to take those shreds and rip them into little shreds, and Jack in the Smackback. Yeah. So, in a brief scene during Ashi's fight, a Shilot appears resembling her previous outfit and hairstyle can be seen, possibly representing her warped upbringing and residual brutality and training she grew up with. And yeah, I genuinely did love this episode, and I really thought this was entertaining as all heck. And I'm curious as to know what's going to happen in the next episode, since it seems like they're going to do a delay on that ultimate epic battle, where it's shown that there's something hunting Jack and Ashi. And I'm curious as to know what happened to that robotic bounty hunter. Like, is he still going to tell Aku? Because if he does tell Aku, then Aku's just going to kill him because Jack has his sword back. And yeah, one of the key highlights for me was Mad Jack for his over-the-top attitude and facial expressions. I just couldn't help but laugh at that. It sort of reminds me when Triple H, after Fastlane back in 2015, had this scowl pout look, glaring at somebody for no particular reason because I wanted ice cream attitude, thinking he didn't get his way that night. And yeah, I just thought that was hilarious. Especially when Jack tries to ask the monk one more time, and Mad Jack just looks at the monk with a pout look, and I thought, okay, that's just kind of hilarious. And yeah, and I've also realized that Ashi wakes up and seeing Jack compliments his new haircut and shave mirrors the previous episode where Jack compliments Ashi's new hair and dress. And I'm curious as to know, are they really still gonna get together? Like, I'm still a little iffy on that. Like, they're probably gonna happen in the next episode because it's actually said that the relationship between Jack and Ashi takes a turn after they're being hunted by one of the galaxy's deadliest creatures. So, it's going to be interesting what goes down in the final 3 episodes. This was Neo Reality Entertainment. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and donate. Stay tuned for more.